All right, we'll call the February 4th, 2019 Management Committee meeting to order. Got the roll already. Why don't we, if someone would make a motion to move Head Start right behind public comments, and that way they don't have to wait around. It also gives the Smart Walk people a little more time to finish what they got to do. So if somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make
Is there a second?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then with those, with that change being made, motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
As amended.
Second? Charlie, second. Whoever you had.
Zoom on and off. And that's to approve the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Charlie, you had some questions for him?
Yeah, thank you for coming, I appreciate it. I was worried about what kind of weather you're going to have, but it straightened out for us to get here. And I was worried that I might not make it myself, and I've been really embarrassed. Well, both of us here, so it's fine. No,
Thanks for having us.
appreciate you coming, I really mean it. I'm concerned about safety more than anything else. I'm all for young people's education. I had only one son, but I can tell you that he went to every school I could put him to at a very early age. In fact, I thought it started even too early, but he proved me wrong. It was a thing to do. So I understand that it's a good, great concept. I am concerned about the safety involved in it. You were here last, maybe March or April a year ago, last year. Is that right? Somewhere in there. And at that time, you did mail me a big manage. I don't know what you referred to it again now is operations standards or performance, and I appreciate it, except that it's long, and I'm not sure I found the right things in it. Maybe you can help me. And also, at that meeting, the sheriff was here and said something about start out with a point system you have to rate. Who does the point system, and how is it devised?
All right. I can start with the easy one, which is a point system.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The Office of Head Start has federal mandates, and the federal mandates says that we are to collect as many applications as possible within the given area, the geographic area. And so for us, that's Watseka. And from there, you have families that have specific priorities. So our priority point system will give points for a family that's income eligible. It'll give give extra points for a family that may be a grandparent. We have a point system for a child that may have disabilities. We have a point system also for families of children who are veterans and in active duty. So there are a variety of points based on the needs of the community. And the idea is that we put in the parents all their potential points, and the families with the greatest need are the families that will get the highest points. And then we begin to select from there. Matter of fact, our selection process has no names on it. It's just the points. And from there, we see who has the highest points, and then we can go over and see who the child is, contact the family and tell them that they have a place in the Head Start program. So that's how the Office of Head Start basically regulates our enrollment to make sure that we enroll the children with the most needs within the community first.
I won't argue with that at all. That wasn't what I thought it was. I'm more concerned about the physical layout of the building
Okay,
and the running of the structures type of thing. I thought maybe the point made, you've got so many points, if the doors are kept locked, like you told me before. In other words, build up the points by how safe the structure in your program is.
no, all of our programs, all of our centers, regardless of the location, we have to ensure that our doors are locked.
Yeah, I understood
And,
that. Yeah.
we have to also ensure that there is a way to check the individuals before they have entrance into the classroom area where the children and staff are. So that's the basic procedure that we have here. We have a doorbell, we have a window where they can see, and we just make sure that entrance is given based on that. Children are released to individuals that are written at the time of intake, or whenever the parent tells us that they're wanting to change a contact. So at the time of taking the application or at any point, the parent gives us a list of names of individuals that we would say may have access to the room. And then we also have a visitor's badge to make sure that we would know, okay, first of all, we have to have the ID of the person to ensure that whoever's coming through has a connection to a child in the classroom. And then they wear a tape at a self-stick visitor badge that says they're a visitor of the Head Start program. But most importantly, regardless of where we are, there is a buzzing system where we cannot give anybody access to the room unless we know what their purpose is and how they're connected to the program or to the children in the classroom. And that is something nationwide Head Start has had for a while, where things have happened in schools, things have happened at daycare centers, things have happened, unfortunately, in the day and the time that we live in now, where we can't say or even take for granted that Watseka has a low crime rate, so we're gonna relax, you know. We just have to make sure that we're vigilant, diligent in ensuring that the protocols are followed. So we do announced and unannounced monitoring to make sure that the staff are aware of what the safety protocols are. And in the years that we have been here, if we've ever had any conflict, it has been with parents that are in the program that, that may have, and when I say conflict, parent may get upset or something of that sort. But we have never had an incident by God's grace. We have 10 centers in 3 counties, and we have maintained 100% safety protocol because of making sure that we know who's coming into the center. If we see anybody suspicious walking around the place, we make sure, regardless of where we are, that the officials are notified. So what we do here in the Iroquois County building is what we're required to do at all 10 Head Start centers. Where even I, entering Head Start Center, and staff know me, I wear badges or things that identify them, because our visits and our monitoring of the centers are announced and unannounced. And that is to make sure that our children and staff are safe.
You know, that leads right into some of my concerns, as I pointed out to you at that time. There's a law on books in Illinois that a school, not only yours, other schools, public, you know, like just regular high schools and grade schools, must try to be located at least 500 feet from any center where a convicted child molester has need to be, or lives, or frequents, and that kind of thing. And that's what grew out of my concern about the center, is there's no way you can feel that, at least maybe you can tell me if you can, feel 500 feet from a convicted child molester. They can come in the same entryway as the children do in this building. In fact, they have to. There's certain services in this building that they must be assured to have access to.
Yes,
And
thank
that-
you for that concern, because that is a concern that we have at all of our centers. Our centers are located at areas where other services are provided. We provide services for energy bill assistance, for home visits. We provide services we're located in areas where others from the population can enter. And we don't know by face who those individuals are. So that's why we must keep the facilities locked. And it's not just here. Just up the street, Gilman, we have one side where there's a Head Start Center, and the other side, we have customers that are coming in and out that are served in weatherization, energy bill assistance, community services, block grant, and other services. We must follow those protocols. And that'll happen also even with the school districts. School districts aren't safe as we may think it may be, because we have parents that are registered pedophiles that have rights and must have right to that building. But we have to have protocols. And our protocol is a shutdown where you cannot have access to those areas unless we are buzzing you in, and before you buzz in, we need to know what you're here for, what your purposes are. So even your concern in the school district, if a parent is a pedophile, we're still not escaping that potential danger. And our protection is to ensure that our doors are locked and we have a screening process of who has access to the children. So this is not the only building where we're concerned and make sure that we follow safety protocol. And other Head Start centers are in school districts, but you have parents that are registered pedophiles that have by right, by the law, access to that building if they're coming to that building for a parent-teacher conference or for an event. You can't stop them from coming in if they have a purpose, but there's protocol that you have to follow. Doors locked, no access to the children without the proper screening.
Yeah, I understand that. And that is another main concern I have of right here. Not only to convicted pedophiles, whatever you call, and children can come elbow to elbow through the doors. Only difference is the child goes to the left and the other goes straight on through. And if nothing else, they can sit down. They have a lounge right there. They can watch the coming and going of the children. And they're pretty hard to go up to somebody like that and say, "What are you doing here?" You can lie and tell us he's coming to see the county clerk or something. And what is your business with the county clerk? And tell us none of your business. And it might be something entirely different in his mind. That's what goes through my mind as I see our entryway here. Another one, as I pointed out, there was an article in the Tribune 3 or 4 years ago, how difficult you have it. And I understand that with this law. We're out here in a country where their spaces. And maybe we can do some things to increase our safety because there are spaces. The same law applies for high-rise centers in New York or in Chicago, where the school might be on the third floor and office buildings all around it. You can't tell who's going up the elevators, type like. So it's really a difficult law to enforce. I see you have would have a lot of ifs and even right here, if they might look at it and say, well, holding hands to the curb is great because the curb's only about 12 feet away. Our curb here, if you were to where the bus is, I'd count how many blocks are out there. It must be 400, 500 feet. It's a long way to go hands in hands to the bus out there. In fact, I did it. I was on my way out one morning and heard somebody yell. That's the only reason I noticed it, is yelling for safety here. And you told me before, there's between every so many students, there's a teacher, and it was a trained teacher. And then at the back of this holding hands line was another teacher. So there was I don't know, more than that, 6 or 7 in a line, but nobody at the back. I know it doesn't happen every day, but it scares me when I see it, so I wind up bringing it. And my thoughts here with the extra, the lack of density, it'd be easier to locate and locate where there isn't this worry of child molesters. We have other schools right here in town that I understand are not full. Would love to have another school in it and live in an area. They already live in a real residential area. Yes, there might be a child molester move in, but they take more action against that, I think, than you can in here. Be a better suited place for your school. And it seems to me that I'm sure you're working. You got to keep working on it. You got to stay ahead of the curve. In other words, you have to be ahead of whatever they come up with as restrictions on things like this, and prove to them you're always within the toleration aspect of your location and your operation. And that's what bothers me. That this is a tough thing. And it seems like there's more apparent problems with this kind of thing as time goes on. Excuse me, I've lost my breath by speech today. Like the last thing I read, it had to do with schools, but maybe nothing like yours, is an incident in northern Wisconsin where this guy took a young lady, 12 or 13 years old, kidnapped her, had it over 3 months, and at the same time killed the girl's parents in their house. Have you read about it?
Yeah, I did.
And it's sad. They asked him, did you know the girl? No. And how do you have to pick her out? He says, I saw her get on the bus and I knew she'd be the one. That's all he said. She's lucky to be alive, but many of them are not. So my concern is, I'd like to see you do your best at all these things. Maybe you might want to search and look for a school here that's got extra rooms that would take something like this as a school rather than in a congested area like this. I know in the case that a man can't go to pick up his mail at the post office because there's a city park right across the street from it. So even public places like that turn out to be a problem for your schools. And it's pretty sad that the guy can't just pick up his mail and go home. Right across the street, children play. Not even a school. It's a real problem I see, and something I think we need to keep working on. If we could help you work on it, I'd like to see our management committee working with you, and any things you might see would be better in your operation, we work together on.
I've listened to you, and believe me, there is something that, regardless of the location, there are things that we do to ensure to the best of our ability, that children are safe. There are some logistics that makes it difficult for us to be at a school. For example, the playground. Playground is regulated for ages 3 to 5 years. A lot of school playgrounds are regulated for children between 5 and older. In us moving, there would be such a hardship, yet there are regulations that we would not be able to meet this year because of what licensing may dictate for us to have in the size of equipment. And for licensing outdoor play is not a choice, it is a regulated mandate for daycare centers. So moving to a school is not the best case scenario for us at this moment if we do not have the money to establish a playground. That was the first thing that we would have to do. The playground that's out here is regulated for birth to 5 years old. And it's over the years that in investing and in putting specific equipment that we have done to have this particular playground regulated. But even beyond that, moving to a school and your safety concerns, it is nothing different. Matter of fact, they're more, unfortunately, in the United States, if we're going based on statistics, things have happened more in the schools than actually at daycare centers that are in private areas. So the safety precautions that we take, Mr. Charles, I don't remember your last name.
It's all right.
The safety precautions that we take, it's something that we have to do regardless of where we are. And I believe that our children are safe here. I truly believe that. If I felt that our children were not safe here, it wouldn't be an issue of the playground for me. It would be, let's move where our children are safe. And then let's petition DCFS to see what we can do to get regulations to give us a break for a year. Or it might be, let's shut down until we have the money to rebuild somewhere else. There are decisions like that we have to make sometimes. Based on our experience here, there is no reason for us to believe that the children are at risk, or the staff, I don't want to just say the children, but that the staff and the children are at risk here. And the only reason that we would move is, quite frankly, Mr. Charles, if you just simply want us out of this building.
That's not the case in my case.
Right, but I just wanted to, as you gave me various scenarios, and I respectfully give you that scenario, because we have systems in place to ensure that our children are safe. So if you saw children leaving the building and you only saw one person, you saw no one in back of the children, that is something that we would have to know about right away. And then I have to wonder, we're dealing with human beings. I don't know if the staff member had to run to a bathroom real quickly. I don't know what happened at that point, but I know.
Parents.
Hmm?
Or was it parents? We have parents transporting. Could have been a parent.
I'm not sure,
I don't know.
but we monitor our systems. We have a system where we have to make sure there's someone in front of the line or in back of the line. Every time that we monitor, and it's quite a bit of monitoring that happens, we have to make sure that that's done. I know that human factors will come into place, emergencies occur. I don't know if an emergency happened that day, Mr. Charles, while you saw no one in the back. I'm gonna give you my business card. If you see that, I need to know right away, because that's a break of our business. That's a break of our safety protocol. And it doesn't take much for things to happen with 3 through 5-year-olds. It takes no time. Does anybody else on the team wanna, Fred, do you wanna talk about how we monitor the facilities?
We have staff, we
Well,
have,
introduce yourself.
I am Fred Whitman, I'm the facility and transportation coordinator for, the Head Start program through East Central Illinois Community Action Agency.
Okay,
Yeah, we have staff, our administrative staff visit on a regular basis.
that's what I was gonna ask too, are you regulated and inspected now and then?
Yeah, I come up here, I think if you look at the, I met you twice so far, haven't I, in 1 month?
Yeah.
And, I come up here, I think if you look at the logging, you'll see I've been up here 4 or 5 times, a minimum, in January. And when I go, and as other administrative staff go, we do what's called active supervision. We look and we see if the policies and the procedures are being followed. And if they're not being followed, then action is taken to ensure that they are.
Okay.
And
And
that
the
can-
action he's talking about, failure to do active supervision can lead to up to termination of your job. But we have enforced active supervision where staff have gotten time off without pay. That's how serious we are about supervising the children. We don't do it often, but if we need to, or we see there's a breach, it's serious for us because things happen quickly with 3 and 5-year-olds.
That's what I'm thinking, yes.
Yeah. Okay, Fred, sorry about that.
As we mentioned, yeah, if we see something, we're obligated to go through our processes to correct those. And many of the people that are going out and looking at that, they've been with the Head Start program for up to 20 years. I've worked with 3 other Head Start programs in 3 other states. And all of them have been dealing with maintaining a safe environment. We follow procedures, we follow standards. There are Head Start standards that require us to follow through with procedures. In the 3 other states I worked at with Head Start, we had our centers located throughout different types of facilities. We actually had back in Powell, Wyoming, we had in a county administration building. And we also had them in churches. I think that if you have them in a building like this, you are at a safer level. If you look at instances that have occurred in Kentucky, there was an instance where Head Start children, this happened about 10 years ago, where children were at risk. And that they were at risk, and that location wasn't as so.
Or in isolated areas. Isolation of children and classroom teams is my biggest concern. When we have children around with their other eyes that are looking, that is a safer environment for our children. Put them in the middle of nowhere, it's scary. What could happen?
I have to admit, I was not long ago in the hospital, and the hospital knows that I am very concerned about taking pain medicine that might wind up addicted. And they reminded me again, I'm taking pain medicine, and I gave them a look like, here we go. And I was told it's better to stay ahead of the curve in pain than fall behind, because then you will really look at it. And suddenly thought of this, if we fall behind from not watching on to the safety of these children, we're a problem.
Sure.
And that, and it asks me more to want to talk to you concerning, we got to stay ahead of the curve, and if we can think of anything to do, if we can help here, I'll be after the committee chairman to help us too, if we can improve the safety of the children here. If you got any suggestion, I'd love to work with you, not concerned about each other.
Well,
Thank you for coming, I don't know,
thank
maybe.
you, Mr. Charles. Thank you. If there's anything else that I can say.
Just a quick, we're coming up on mowing season, are they gonna be using the planter things out there again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, we have the University of Illinois. They're going to be coming out, working with the children and the parents. And we work it out with the staff during the summer months to try to maintain the beds during the summer months. But it's actually a part of our curriculum where we're talking to the children about how photosynthesis work, how, it's kind of a big word for 3 and 4-year-olds, but we introduce those words. But, we talk to them about how things grow. And you never know that experience from a very young age that might be the future high-tech farmer that's working the area. I don't know. But yes, we would like to continue. If it's a problem, we'll stop. But
I
we would like to
think
continue.
when it got set up, we got with the guy who had the mowing contract then, has it now, and what he did to help was he mulched in between that, and he provided that free of charge. If it looks like it needs more mulch, we can get in touch with him and see if we can, you know,
All right.
mulch breaks down, so over time we may have to add more.
Okay, well, we have a gentleman that comes out because, we get some weeds in Watsika that we can't believe. I mean, it's hard to keep.
It grows corn
Yes,
in the playground.
yes. We grow corn in the playground, but we did have a gentleman that comes out because we have to be careful what we use.
Right.
It has to be child friendly. But we started using him last summer and it actually started to work. So if you don't mind, I can check and see if he's willing to go around the beds and just treat it and put some mulch if you'd like, and,
That's fine,
you
you
know,
know, we
he's
just
pretty
wanna
good.
make sure it's kept looking nice and the
Yes.
weeds down and
that's reasonable, yeah.
so.
Willing to do that still? Yes, sir.
I guess one thing that I would like to ask relative to this matter, I believe there's a state statute that also says that no convicted sex offender can come within 500 feet of the school. And I'm wondering, how do we want to approach that particular matter? Are we denying all those people the opportunity to use the facilities that the county has here because of the school being in the building?
Is that a question for me?
Well, that's a question for everybody. I think
Okay.
it's something that we need to think about. I think it sounds to me like from what you described earlier over in Gilman, you maybe have the same situation.
Right.
Very similar.
And,
We never know when those people are here or wanna come. They don't wear badges,
right,
or any other identification.
right,
Nobody knows who they are.
correct,
We do know that there are a number of convicted sex offenders residing in this county.
sure,
And, you know, I mean, so it's a concern. You know, if they come here, they're violating the state law and maybe jeopardizing themselves in that regard. Whether they intend to commit any wrongful act or not,
mm-hmm,
the law still says that they cannot come within 500 feet of the school unless they have, in the school, they can get permission from a principal if they have a child in the school and they have school business.
mm-hmm.
But otherwise, they cannot come within 500 feet of that school.
And we are aware at our other centers that that is something we have no control of because there are other services that are provided. So the individual who knows that they have that restriction, they're to follow the law. But at the same time, we have not been given any kind of mandate from DCFS that we are not to have the facility nearby any social services where those chances may be there. We just put in those locked precautions to keep the children safe, whether it's a pedophile, whether it's someone that may be mentally ill, someone who's violent. You know, we keep all those safety calls in there, so I'm not sure how to answer your question.
I'm not sure that any of us necessarily has an answer here today, but I think it's something that we need to be cognizant of, and I think we need to not sweep it under the rug either, because it is something that, I think there's a reason for it,
Mhm.
and I think that, you know, it may be something that isn't being followed by other places, you know, in the state besides us, but nevertheless, it's what the law says.
Mhm.
Are we gonna follow the law or not, I think is the question, so. it's-
I would think that the law, in following the law, when you do the application or whatever services they come for, and they say, you know, I'm a registered offender, then we would have to address it where you're 500 feet away. Whatever services, we'll have to do it, you know, whether through the mail or something of that sort.
Well, it's
That's my
something-
only answer to that, potentially.
As I said, I don't know that we have the answer for it today, but I wanted to make us aware of that part of the whole program, or the whole matter.
We'd have to look at health department if we're gonna do that too. For immunizations, it's the same situation.
Do you have online services where if I wanted to apply for a renewal of some type of service, is it something that can be done online?
I think that there's people that shouldn't be around children everywhere all the time. And I know from my vantage point at my own building, you do what you can do, you provide the safest system that you can, you keep your protocol, you keep your people in line, you do drills, and it's a public building. There are other reasons people come to those buildings, and, you know, if that means separate entrances or whatever, but you do the best you can, and you have your protocol in place, and you follow it. I mean, it would be different if they were coming up and, for example, when we have soccer over here, I've had that same issue with people that have been sex offenders, and you say, I'm sorry, you cannot be here. You know, this is a closed group, you cannot be at this event. But at the same time, if they come in the front end of my building to pick up paperwork for some other office space, they're in, they're out, but they're not around. So it can be done. And again, all of us are concerned about making sure that, but it sounds like you guys are doing a great job, so just keep up the good work. There's always room for improvement.
Anybody else have any other questions, comments?
The only problem I see of that, I don't know who sex offenders are. I doubt if you know who they are either, all of them.
We don't, but they have the right to be on public streets,
Yeah,
and,
but it-
I mean, so 500 feet, you're limiting it a lot, just going through the parking lot, you know?
Oh, I know that.
So,
Getting back to the article in the paper I read saying they didn't think the legislature knew how hard it was gonna be to put this into practice.
right,
But they made the point where highly populated areas have a more difficult time than they do out in lesser populated.
the same thing with an order of protection, if you have an order of protection, and you're supposed to stay, you know, X amount of feet away from somebody, they can stand on the public street and harass somebody, because it's a public street. They can't step into your parking lot. True story. So,
Well, maybe I'm confused. I'm like, made the point about couldn't go to the post office because it's right across the street from a public park. Well,
and that's a public building, so I would think that they would be allowed to get their mail and get out,
Mhm.
but at the same time,
or not, have to send somebody else with what I was told.
and that's great, but a
Well-
lot of them don't do that, Charlie, you know.
Well,
That's
because
the
it's not
problem.
like, it's not written on their forehead who they are. And
Exactly.
we can't do that either.
So we have to make the best.
So that's why I'm worried about making it our stand is offer the best safety we can. And work together if we can, if we have questions.
Right, no, I think.
I
it's good.
appreciate you coming up and discussing it with me
Thanks for
very much.
having us.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
everybody.
Thank you. Do you need all their names?
These two, I just need these two.
I'm Tina Alpers,
You're not that old enough.
And Tina is the Director of Education.
Alpers, Alpers.
Okay.
I'm the Director of Education. I've been coming here for a lot of years. So I've been over since we started here.
And I'm
so.
Kia Cunningham, KEA
Penny.
Cunningham. And I'm Director of Family and Community Engagement. I sure do, I sure do. Let me get it out
Director
right
of
now.
Family and Community
I'd
Engagement.
appreciate one too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have his business card. I have your business card.
Why don't I leave this stack here and I can just replenish when I go back to the office. You wanna take one and just pass it around? I think that should be, that's like a deck of cards. Yeah. But we appreciate you having us here. Thank you
Give me
very
one
much.
when he's not here. Could I do that?
No.
I did it on purpose.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted you to tell me that he didn't do it.
All right. Let's put our seats
Thank you
back.
again.
Thank you. Hey, Fred, turn your seat around. Let's do the Head Start thing. We always clean up. Do a cleanup song. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Bye, have a good day.
Thank you.
okay. Moving on to county farm management issues, I am not aware of any at this point. So then we will go to continued discussion on building efficiencies, that would be the smart watt people.
Morning, everybody. Here's this. I emailed you a copy as well, and then
Okay, do me go print them out.
that's just from the packet of
Okay.
this. These are gonna-
So this was already in?
Yeah, there's a,
the-
but it was like a 20-page packet. It's just
Okay.
kind of hidden in there, so
Okay.
there's a resolution.
Hmm. I guess.
But essentially, that
Go ahead and
that
pass
is
it around.
it's approving the lease purchase agreement with government capital. That's a resolution that they like to have in there, so we just use that. And if there's any edits to that, we can get you a Word document to edit that. And then there was an additional resolution for applying for the grant for the chiller replacement, and we separated that out just because that's
Do we have that?
and that we sent it. I just sent it to you,
Okay,
so you have it now.
We
You can have it.
Why don't we take a little break and you go,
okay.
we'll look over this one while you go print off the other.
You go to-
We'll just sit here and read that and not do anything that needs to be recorded.
Sounds good.
Anybody wants to talk about the football game yesterday?
Yeah, you could tell right off that the Rams didn't have what it took to beat the Patriots.
Boring game.
Yeah.
Not a defensive-minded person, you're kind of just like, ooh, you want to see some points.
Yeah.
Been had a lot of furnaces go out when it's cold snap.
Some people, I understand, took a couple days off while the rest of us had to go out and miss work.
It's talking about me. I was actually probably the most productive day I've ever had because I was able to actually sit there at my computer because most of the counties I'm working with were closed for the day, so there wasn't anywhere for me to go, so.
You took time off to catch up?
Exactly. That's usually how it works. It's hard to work on a computer when I'm driving.
Too bad none of your bosses figure that in and make you take time off, you know, a Sunday or something.
Tell them about the award you won last month.
Okay. Give me a wings and awesome sauce award. I eat a lot of chicken wings,
Oh.
so everyone kind of makes fun of me for it. But it worked out great because I got a gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings, so I can catch up on my beer and wings.
There you go.
Now that football season's over, I don't know.
Yeah, but I heard they're starting spring training in 2 weeks or something.
Yeah,
baseball.
they don't take much time off. Yeah, this is kind of that lull between football and baseball season. Try to watch college basketball, get caught up on that for the March Madness tournament, so I don't look like a complete knucklehead when I'm putting my bracket together.
Purdue.
I had them win it all last year, and
Yeah, they did.
they did not.
Michigan State's pretty good.
Some surprise.
Why am I not
Tennessee.
hearing ISU or Illini in
They probably won't be in the tournament.
Who do you root for?
We're
in
not even
football?
gonna be in the not-in tournament.
Right, they won't have
The
the other one, the
NIT.
NIT one, yeah. The not-in
this?
tournament.
Actually, from here north, it's probably split between Bears
Packers.
and Green Bay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
There's a lot of Packers fans in
Packers
Chicago.
and.
And I think all the St. Louis Rams fans stopped watching NFL football altogether.
Yeah, they lost a couple teams,
Yeah.
keep losing. The Saints felt bad about that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. They were destroyed.
You saw that they boycotted the game, right?
Yeah.
New Orleans,
Yeah. I don't know,
signs up, don't watch the
yeah,
game.
that's gonna change a few things.
Yeah, there was a businessman from New Orleans that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars buying advertisement in Atlanta, just like boycotting the game and calling out the NFL. So, think of a lot better ways to use your money, but
Yeah,
if you have a disposable income and that's what you want to do with it, I guess all the power to you.
I said to my wife, she's from Pittsburgh, so she's a Steeler. She knows more about football than most guys.
Yeah.
She was born and raised there. I said, would you pay $4,000 to go see it? She says, maybe if the Steelers are playing. But she says, no, I'd rather sit here at home. It seems ridiculous, you
A lot easier to just watch it in your living room.
know. Yeah.
Is that what Super Bowl tickets cost?
$4,000, she said, that they said that's what
That's
they're
like
going for.
on the low end too.
The answer to that is a hard no.
People pay $30,000 for their box seats and stuff like that. Crazy.
Think about spending that much and then such a boring game. You know, yesterday's game was absolutely horrible.
She had a
I would
kid
be
on the
very
field.
mad.
Yeah, you-
Hopefully you get it for free up there.
yeah.
How much were the Cubs tickets when they went to the World Series? They were pretty expensive too, weren't they?
$500.
How long was that?
I don't know.
Usually Amanda's there and
It's a
back.
one pager. Hopefully she got it.
I could bring it up on my computer too if there's a problem. Pass the computer up.
Fire it up just in case.
I know there's some newer faces that weren't involved from the beginning, because we started this process probably in early summer. So we've been working on this for quite a bit of time. And I just want to encourage you gentlemen to reach out to me if you have any questions. Sometimes it's easier to sit down versus ask them during a board meeting, and we can catch you up on anything or talk about any part of the project that you have questions on.
Something went wrong,
I'd send you after her, but, you know, when people leave and don't come back, you stop sending people. But isn't that the flaw in all the horror movies? Somebody leaves, doesn't come back, so they send somebody
Send
else,
someone
and
else,
they
and
don't
they don't.
come back, they send somebody else. You know?
Then you're by yourself and you're like,
I
actually saw that happen on the ship that I was on with refrigerant. Guys went down, 3 of them died, going down to get somebody else. No alarm.
That's why you're supposed to. Bathroom break.
We lost 2 already.
So they didn't have a protocol that,
Oh yeah, you should have put on a, you know, basically what looks like a scuba mask. And, but, you know, you see a body and you go down to get it.
yeah, in the trainings I've been to, it was always drilled into you. Don't become the next victim, it just makes it harder for the rescue guys when they come.
And it was 3 stories of you know, vertical ladder. So you know, you see the, so you go down and get the person. So I brought my mouse over too. I can never use these pads.
Okay.
Have you read this, John?
Not this morning, I haven't.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
It's more of an attorney.
Yeah, it's all subject to state's attorney approval.
And that will be in the motion, subject to state's attorney approval.
And we have started that process with Jim. He's reviewed some documents and we're in the process, or we have updated some stuff and we're in the process of updating other items so that he's comfortable with everything. So we're working towards that goal.
That one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
There's not.
Wow.
Such a wild goose chase.
You just had a baby, so. Stay at home for a couple months.
The printer was occupied.
Just throw.
Yeah, I think that's the paper copy that you have. It's the same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing.
These photos are going to be on those also.
Okay. You can pass out, I mean, that's
That's the full,
the lease agreement.
right, the full agreement.
Didn't we cover that last time?
Yeah, that's been,
Okay.
it's been
If
adjusted.
somebody wants to
It
look
just
at
has
it
the
again, but we,
adjustment, like you said.
Yeah, and then the amortization schedule on that one's wrong.
well, and basically the adjustment was, they separated the chiller out from the other because the state grant for the chiller stated it had to be a separate. So,
And it took a year off the overall term of the project, as well as probably saved about 50 to 60,000 in interest, which was very significant. So the way it's structured now is definitely much better. And because that year got removed, it actually qualified you guys for a lower interest rate. That's about 0.3% lower than what was there, so that's additional savings there, so that's in pretty good shape.
So, basically, just to keep things moving forward, does anybody have any questions on the resolutions? It's just basically saying we're moving forward.
Yeah, so the resolution that was passed previously was for the implementation of the scope, and there was a do not exceed number in there, and that allowed us to go finalize this lease purchasing agreement. And we stayed below the do not exceed. It's actually well below it because now there's been some things removed that's helped and benefited you guys. So this is giving us the ability to proceed with essentially with setting up the lease purchase agreement and applying for the grant for the chiller replacement. You know, John's been doing a lot of that effort, but we'll be there available to help with that effort as well. We have technical writers and we have all the documentation that's needed, so we'll provide that as part of that process. So then this gives us that ability to move forward. Essentially, this is the last step before getting started on the project. And that's, as we mentioned, all subject to state's attorney approval. Jim has seen this, but there are some things that we're working on updating, so as long as I think we get those updated, he'll be good with it.
When you're doing your stuff, you need to update what year you are.
Oh, what year did I say?
2018,
What?
so?
Did I say 2018? Come March, I'll realize that we're in the next year.
I have some that it's like 2016 because it's templates that you
And that's
use
why I
every
gave that,
year.
I gave that to you in Word, because I figure you're going to alter it for, you know, what, you know, you probably have a different group of whereas and here-tos than I have, so whatever format, you like to see, it should be closed.
So let me just ask a question. This is an authorization to proceed. It doesn't cost us anything, and it's based on, you're gonna come up with something that we have, and Jim Devine's gonna review it and everything, and after that, we can settle on it. Okay, is that what I'm hearing? There's no money gonna be put out right now?
Basically, this is approving the project.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no upfront cost. The chiller is separate from the lease purchase agreement. So the lease purchase agreement has no upfront cost, and that's literally going to use the savings that SmartWatt's guaranteeing to pay for the project. So that's all guaranteed savings that is currently budgeted right now, and we're basically going to come in and use that budgeted dollar. The chiller has been separated because there's the grant available for it, so there will be upfront cost associated with the chiller replacement, but that's separate from this lease purchase.
Okay.
So you understand?
Yeah, being new here, I'm coming in.
No, for sure, and that's a very good question.
The way the whole program works, it's run under state statutes and everything. A project, and it's
supposed to pay for itself.
Right, so we're spending X number of dollars on electricity and fuel. We're going to save $30,000 when we do these projects. That $30,000 then goes to pay for the projects every year. So it's a budget neutral. We would be spending that $30,000 a year on the utility costs. So instead of spending on utility costs, it's spent on upgrades, saving us that money. And then at the end of when everything's paid for, then we still have the utility savings.
Right. Yeah, you're literally just reallocating operational expenses that are already in your budget to kind of this new line item that we usually look at as like a fourth utility. So you'll have your electric, gas, water, and then your performance contract project.
And if we do not realize the savings that they've said, then they write us a check.
Right. So if that number that we guarantee, if it's more than that, then that's just extra that you guys get to keep and save and use however you see fit. If it's less, then we have to recuperate those costs for you to make sure it maintains that budget neutrality, and that's required as part of the statute, the state energy law.
I'll make the motion, we approve this resolution pending Jim Devine's approval.
Which one?
This one,
That is,
doesn't have a number.
chiller. The
Yeah.
chiller.
What number is that? That one on the resolution?
The county clerk's office assigns a number to it.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Whenever you're ready.
So to approve the chiller resolution contingent upon
Jim
Jim
Devine.
Devine's, review?
Yes.
Okay, or approval?
I
Both.
said approve.
Okay. Being roll call.
Yeah, because technically it is approving money.
Barron,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Ducat, Bowers.
Yes.
Sorry, Zumwalt,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other resolution that was passed around earlier. We'll call that, energy conservation financing.
I'll make that motion as well.
Same wording?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Has Jim looked at these at all yet? Is this
Um,
going again, or?
He has looked at them, and there was a few things, and that's what they are working on getting back with him on. So, I think, and that's why we were delayed this morning with the meeting, because we were hashing out some of those things and going over it with them. So,
We've addressed all of them, and then there's one wording thing that we need to change in the contract, as long as that needs his approval.
and he was otherwise occupied this morning, so he couldn't make it. He had some legal issues over at the courthouse he was dealing with, so.
Roll call.
Yeah.
Barron,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Zumwalt, Johnson.
Is there anything else we need to address to keep this moving forward?
I think the ball's in our court, we have some updates to do, and we'll get something to Jim, hopefully within the next day or two.
So the issue was the asbestos language. We'll edit that text and get it over final first final reading.
Okay.
Sooner the better, because then they go back and forth a couple times.
Yeah. It usually does when it comes to attorney red lines.
Okay.
Very good, thanks guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out if there's any other questions that come up.
Yes.
All right, next thing is discuss and take action of solar bid. So, at this time, need someone to make a motion to go into executive session under 5 ILSCS 120/2, section 6.
They keep looking at me for a while.
Just,
I'll make that motion.
the setting of price for sale or lease of property owned by a public body.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
All opposed? Don't think this is gonna take too long.